Episode 6 opens with Karli and the Flag Smashers determined with their new plan.
It's time.
The Global Reparation Council is under lockdown. Bucky and Sharon enters, and up in the sky, a familiar pair of wings fly with new colors. The new Captain America arrives.
I thought Captain America was on the moon.
Karli distracts everyone, Batroc fights Sam, and Bucky is sidetracked by a heartfelt phone call.
I'm fighting for something bigger than myself. And with all the bodies you've collected, have you ever been able to say the same?
You don't think I ever fought for something bigger than myself? That's all I ever tried to do. And I fell twice.
Karli is ready to die for the cause, something that he's done many times now, so he warns her of the consequences that will tear at her conscience. A chase ensues. Karli plans to kill the hostages and sacrifice everyone for the reason that after Walker's rampage, global sympathy for the Flag Smashers have risen to such a level that the movement can effectively survive without them.
It doesn't even matter if we die. The movement is strong enough to continue without us.
However, Bucky goes full Nico Bellic to save the council and Walker appears.
You don't think Lamar's life mattered?
Not to my fight.
But there's no advantage for Walker and Bucky because despite being super soldiers, everyone are too. So this is not a physical conflict, but an ideological one, which is emphasized with Sam, whose every action is way more successful. Because he's purely focused on saving people. Therefore, he ends up winning the crowd every time. From saving the NYPD pilots to the truck filled with hostages, who Walker tried to save but failed, Sam has won the crowd. And for this battle, the collective imagination is crucial.
The Black Falcon there!
Nah, that's Captain America.
Batroc then appears and a chase ensues underground with a maze. Sharon is then revealed to be the power broker who used Batroc to track Karli.
I'm disappointed in you.
That's what I was gonna say.
So Sharon is a bit like an onion. First she was Steve's neighbor hidden by Fury.
I'll keep my distance.
Hopefully not too far.
Then when it's revealed that S.H.I.E.L.D. was controlled by Hydra, she was the main representative for Steve's loyalists.
Captain's orders.
Then she joined the CIA and it's revealed that she is Peggy's American niece, who kept everything hidden out of professional independence.
But it was a lot to live up to, which is why I never told anyone we were related.
She also aided Steve with getting his gear, but this also costed her job.
Sharon was branded enemy of the state and Steve and I were on the run for 2 years.
Therefore, she's a thankless character that's crucial in many events, but is literally forgotten. This reveal takes her two defining attributes of disguise and loyalty and kind of twists them in really dark ways.
You know, when you came to Madripoor, you reminded me of a young me. I took you in, gave you an opportunity. Then you betrayed me.
Because you wanted to control a world that hurt you. But I wanted to change it. I'm not interested in power or an empire. I have bigger dreams.
What, like this? Come back and work for me again. All of you, we can make a difference together.
However, she is unwilling to betray Karli and shoots Batroc, so she's still redeemable to an extent.
I don't do blackmail.
Some of her idealism may have been resurrected because of Sam, or she's just a complete and total opportunist now. We'll have to see. Walker and Bucky outsmarts the Flag Smashers with their own app, and they're buddies now, which is kind of cute. And Sam engages with Karli. She's got strength, but he's got agility and wit. Subsequently, she's extremely infuriated by Sam's unwillingness to straight up fight for the reason that she's projected so many hostile assumptions onto him and onto the world to justify her actions that her heart continues to break from being shown anything different. Sharon then shoots Karli to save Sam, and he holds her before she dies. For a second, we see the same girl from the beginning, the innocent, apologetic being with sympathy, but the light leaves her eyes.
I'm sorry.
Sam is changed by the experience, and he takes her responsibility to speak for those left behind. He drops her body in public like an angel and meets with the Global Reparation Council in front of the media and public and confronts them.
Do you think it is fair for governments to have to support them?
Yes. And the people who reappeared only to find someone else living in their family home, they just end up homeless? Look, I get it, but you have no idea how complicated this situation is. You know what? You're right, and that's a good thing. We finally have a common struggle now. Think about that. For once, all the people who've been begging, and I mean literally begging for you, to feel how hard any given day is,
Now you know.
Sam doesn't have all the answers, but he challenges everyone to think beyond the limits of those questions and encourages changing the very systems that they're struggling to reinstate, using his own story as a black Captain America as an example of how this can be reconciled in spite of all its difficulties. Isaiah Bradley finds catharsis, Walker empathizes, and Bucky smiles. It's a bit weird that this complex political situation is solved by a big dramatic speech, but at the same time, its main priority is not to pay off the main conflict, but to pay off Steve's legacy. Steve used words to mobilize people against Hydra, to prepare the Avengers against Ultron, and to unite everyone against time itself. Sam doesn't just follow suit, but he understands his own symbolic power and is able to use it appropriately. Not as a good soldier, but as a good man. Afterwards, the last of the Flag Smashers are taken away by some secret loyalists, but they're killed by Zemo's butler. Helmet himself smiles in prison. The lady from before, Valentina, reinstates Walker as the US agent now, therefore the time to be declarative and decorative is over.
That's great.
Now the battles exist in the shadows. Bucky tells the truth to the old guy, he gives up Steve's old notebook with every name crossed off of it, and thanks his therapist as he enjoys his new freedom on his own terms, starting a new chapter in his life, if you will. Sam visits Isaiah, and his infectious idealism has caused him to believe again.
He ain't a Falcon anymore, but he's still black.
Sam brings him to the Captain America exhibit, where an entire section is revealed to be devoted to Isaiah's story. So this episode is very similar to episode 5. It's a story about the ethics of remembering. In the epilogue, Sam parties with his community, Bucky joins in, and they smile at the new sunset in a really homoerotic way. The final titles are Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which implies that Falcon's story is officially over now. Sharon is pardoned, her life is restored, her legacy is reinstated, but there's sinister music that plays in the background as it's revealed that she's a Palpatine. Subsequently, for the purpose of this essay, let's treat this episode as an anchor for understanding the show's overall preferred reading, and also as a means of bringing and contextualizing all the stuff from the previous individual episode studies. This sounds kinda convoluted, so there's a certain narrative theory that I'm gonna use to organize everything with. You probably know what it is.
Lincoln? Really?
Great man. Great quote.
Not when you say it.
I do what he does, just slower.
The show is comprised of 6 episodes, 4 topics were identified, and everything nicely fits into a traditional 3-act structure. Episode 1 and 2 establishes home threatened by change, in the form of Wilson's home finances being screwed over by the bank.
I know your family has banked with us for generations, but we cannot approve you.
The family boat must be sold. Sam gives up the shield. The world is divided over deglobalization. Bucky is failing to follow in Steve's footsteps, and the establishment tries to assert a new Captain America to stabilize everything. As a result, as stated from before, the core concept here is symbolic power, the way maps of ideas are naturalized into our brains through the media. John Walker is used to denaturalize the new sense of global community and coincide with the establishment, traditional establishment. Therefore, narratively, the topic of symbolic power contextualizes the refusal of the call stage for Sam and the call to action stage for Bucky, as the world is beginning to take action during their wishy-washy phase of inaction.
This isn't what Steve wanted.
Oh my God, so what do you want me to do? Call America and tell him I changed my mind?
Subsequently, Sam and Bucky's immediate partnership symbolizes the crossing of the first threshold stage, for the reason that Bucky reminds Sam of his personal responsibility for Steve, while Sam shows Bucky life outside of Steve. They have basically inverted character arcs, so their friendship forces them out of the familiar and into uncomfortable new territory.
Thanks, Doc, for making it weird. I feel much better.
Act 2 is composed of episodes 3 and 4, with a specific focus on Stage 9, Atonement with the Father, where the hero must confront whatever holds power in their lives. For Bucky, this comes in the form of Zemo, as Bucky doesn't trust himself to direct his own life after trauma, so he's drawn to people who can.
So maybe he was wrong about you, and if he was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me.
Zemo takes advantage of this every time he gets. He gets Bucky to roleplay as his henchman, reads his book, and constantly addresses him as a friend, despite all of Sam's interventions. Trauma is what defines Bucky, his inability to remember the past productively and inability to absorb new experience causes him to try and escape himself by being someone else. While for Sam, Carly puts on display his very own unspoken feelings of abandonment from his experiences as a black dude, and as someone who has blipped out and is now being left behind by the new world order.
I'm not your enemy. I agree with your fight. I just can't get with the way you're fighting it.
Carly encapsulates the globalization topic wholeheartedly. She fights for a closer, interconnected world where everyone can be globals, as Bauman defined. Sam disagrees with her methods, but as a symbol promoting her own map of ideas, he agrees. Therefore, her struggles allows him to identify his own beliefs.
You really think her ends justify her means? Then she's no different than him.
She's different. She's not motivated by the same things.
The two topics of trauma and globalization here are connected by their theme of letting go of the past in order to be closer with yourself right now. This is spotlighted with Walker, who represents the ineffectiveness of old symbols when none of its contents are updated.
Do you know who I am?
Walker is also what Bucky and Sam would become if they don't stop avoiding themselves, but because they have inverted character arcs, their partnership forces them to confront what they've been avoiding. Bucky learns to stop relying on someone else to reconstruct himself.
So before you go and destroy it, I'm gonna take it from him myself.
And Sam remembers the relevance and importance of the shield for himself. Their influences lead them to become the master of the two worlds, as Joseph Campbell obviously once said.
We're also a couple guys with a mutual friend.
Friend's now gone.
So we're a couple.
As a result, episode 5 and 6 composes Act 3 and is focused on stage 15, Crossing of the Return Threshold, where everyone comes home struggling to hold on to their newly found wisdom. Sam wants to support change like Carly and be Captain America, but as Isaiah Bradley argued, it's incompatible.
You think times are different? You think I wouldn't be dead in a day if you brought me out?
Bucky lets go of Zemo, but he's still evasive over reconciling with the past. As a result, the big topical concept here, and therefore the master topic of the entire story, is remembering. Memory exists on 3 levels: the individual, social, and cultural, and it is through the flow of meaning through these levels that the overarching conflict is solved. Sam's individual history as a black dude from the South is what gives him power in reminding people of their common humanity across different social divisions, and therefore as Captain America he adds to culture itself, so the story that is inherited from future generations is more complete.
Symbols are nothing without the women and men that give them meaning.
This isn't about easy decisions, Senator.
You just don't understand.
I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes.
I appreciate the advice, but we're gonna do it our own way.
What don't I understand?
We need new heroes, ones suited for the times we're in.
Every time I pick this thing up, I know there are millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it.
And this thing, I don't know if there's ever been a greater symbol.
It's just that shield's closest thing I've got left to a family.
The only power I have is that I believe we can do better.
It is precisely through remembering together as one world, one people, that it is possible to reset, restore, rebuild. Sam had a journey of self-acceptance. Bucky's was one of self-discovery. But how does this work with the larger story of Steve? The show explicitly develops, deviates, and challenges many ideas from the original Captain America trilogy, because the core topics surrounding the ethics of memory echoes the tradition versus modernity debate. Steve's story is like a race against time. It began with a simpler period, before many modern social changes. Then he woke up in a world diverged so much that he's divorced from it, and by the end, he goes his own way.
Hate to break up the set.
Even though Civil War wasn't Steve's last media appearance, it completed his arc in such a firm way that his appearance in Infinity War and Endgame coasts off its momentum. Steve learned to be an individual separate from an imagined community that no longer resembled what he wanted. He'd rather illegally be himself than to compromise his own conscience.
If you want to stand in our way, we'll fight you too.
However, Sam's arc is the reverse. He starts out in the modern world already as an individual who precisely enjoys not living under authority.
The number of people giving me orders is down to about 0.
He leaves with Steve because he's loyal to his friend, and he takes up the shield to make him proud. Sam is someone who has always valued his individual relationships over his loyalty to the broader community.
117 countries want to sign this. 117, Sam, and you're just like, no, it's cool, we got it.
How long are you gonna play both sides?
Therefore, his lesson in Falcon and the Winter Soldier is effectively him learning to become a member of something greater, taking up the shield not just as an expression of love, but as something that can benefit everyone else. This is evident by the fact that the risk for him is that he may lose his personal history, as opposed to him losing his membership to something.
There's one thing I've learned, is that I can't win every fight. But this is our history. We can't lose this fight. All our struggles as a people.
Subsequently, the closest scene that I think measures this difference is Sam's argument with the Council and Steve's argument with Nick. Obviously, the context is wildly different, but they approximate each other in terms of showing the character at their most artistically naked. For Steve, his message is a defense of the past.
You know, I read those SSR files. Greatest Generation? You guys did some nasty stuff.
Yeah, we compromised. Sometimes in ways that made us not sleep so well. But we did it so that people could be free.
Every time the world advances, it loses something important. For Sam, this is an attack on the past.
These labels, terrorist, refugee, thug, they're often used to get around the question why.
Those settlements, do you think it is fair for governments to have to support them?
Yes.
As every time the Council tries to restore the established, something is lost in the present. Therefore, duty is not motivated by nostalgia, but in service for change. If you treat Falcon and the Winter Soldier as Captain America 4, it's effectively a deconstruction.
It doesn't matter what Steve thought.
Because it takes the established message from before and scrutinizes it under an updated context. As mentioned before, Bucky gives an emotional dimension to the broader political concerns and represents the importance of remembering. But now remembering is not defined as loyalty to memories, but in reviewing them with a present-day lens. He learns to adapt with himself, adapt in the world, and adapt with the shield's new social connotations. However, the show on its own, it's also a reconstruction. It starts in the modern and it reassembles gradually a symbol from the past as a modern day truth, so it can be relevant again. Therefore, there's an interesting paradox with the show. It supports to criticize and criticizes to support. Deconstruct to reconstruct and reconstruct to deconstruct, if you will.
Sorry, I was texting, and so all I heard was the black guy in Stars and Stripes.
So if I had to sum up my 10-pence analysis, Sam and Bucky's story shows us that remaking symbols requires compromises. But through these decisions, new meanings are made that's worth treating on its own terms.
I asked her once how she managed to master diplomacy and espionage in a time when no one wanted to see a woman succeed at either. And she said, compromise where you can. But where you can't, don't.
We're not selling our family's legacy.
Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right. Even if the whole world is telling you to move. It is your duty to plant yourself like a tree, look them in the eye and say no. You move.
When Steve first told me about the shield, the first words I said were, it feels like it belongs to someone else.
They will never let a black man be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
When Steve told me what he was planning, I don't think either of us really understood what it felt like for the black man to be handed the shield. How could we?
Hey, look, is this guy bothering you?
No, he's not bothering me. Do you know who this is?
Desire to become a superhuman cannot be separated from supremacist ideals. Anyone with that serum is inherently on that path.
Do you want to kill Nazis? I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
Maybe you're wrong, Zemo. The serum never corrupted Steve.
Touché. But there has never been another Steve Rogers, has there?
This is all really easy for you, isn't it? All that serum running through your veins.
I lived my life by your mandates. I dedicated my life to your mandate. Do you know who I am?
3 badges of excellence to make sure I never forget the worst day of my life.
I only ever did what you asked of me, what you told me to be and trained me to do, and I did it.
If you had been Hypothetically, that is. But you've taken it.
No.
No hesitation. That's impressive.
I need a new set of lungs.
What unit you with?
58th Pararescue. But now I'm working down at the VA.
How about you, Wilson? Could use a man with your abilities.
I'm more of a soldier than a spy. I used to counsel soldiers dealing with trauma, okay? This is right in my wheelhouse.
Don't condescend to me, I'm not a child.
I'm not condescending. I know what it feels like to lose someone, believe me.
Is this Riley?
Yeah. My wingman, Riley. Flying a night mission. Standard PJ rescue op. Nothing we hadn't done 1,000 times before. Till RPG knocked Riley's dumbass out of the sky. Nothing I could do. It's like I was up there just to watch. You must miss the good old days, huh?
Wow. Things aren't so bad. Food's a lot better. We used to boil everything. No polio's good. Internet, so helpful. Been reading that a lot, trying to catch up.
Marvin Gaye, 1972, Trouble Man soundtrack. Everything you missed, jammed into one album.
I'll put it on the list.
I've seen that book. It was Steve's when he came out of the ice. I told him about Trouble Man. He wrote it in that book. Did you hear it? What'd you think?
I like 40s music, so...
You didn't like it?
I just figured if it worked for him, then it would work for me.
You're gonna have to open up and understand that some people really do want to help you and that they can be trusted.
It doesn't matter what Steve thought. You gotta stop looking to other people to tell you who you are.
So yeah, this is my last Falcon and the Winter Soldier video. I try to make these episode studies as clear, no clickbait, no bullshit as possible, with as little jargon as possible, especially compared to my early work. So yeah, hope you liked it, and looks like I'm back to making some more Spider-Man videos.
Suit looks good on you.
Did you write that down first? Or was it off the top of your head?